over to Alex.
Okay, great. Well, it's very nice to be here and talk to you today about InterPro. So yeah, the title here, bringing together protein family resources for sustainability, and I'm using sustainability here in a number of different ways. So InterPro is essentially a one-stop shop for analysis of proteins according to their protein domains and families. And it's a collection of 13 different international databases which contain this information. So what we do is we take all the models of the different families and domains from these databases, we run them against the whole of UniProt, and then we add additional annotation onto that. We make all of that data available to UniProt, which it uses as a basis for its automatic annotation, so it saves duplication of sort of running the code there. So, and we also add annotation and integrate the entries together and add a lot of value Go terms and so on. But talking of sustainability, so one of the sort of aspects of InterPro that I think is quite interesting. So many of these resources have been running for 20 years plus, and in fact, the PIs of these resources are beginning to retire. And what happens to all of these things? Do they just get lost forever? So InterPro is beginning to act as an archive for an increasing number of these resources. So SFLD and Prince have both had PIs retire. And so fortunately, we've been able to persuade those PIs to move those resources to a CC0 license, making them available and freely reusable in perpetuity. In terms of one of the resources that I'm also heavily involved in, which is PFAM. Okay, just to say, rumors of its demise have been greatly exaggerated. So yeah, what we did, so the PFAM website codebase was getting very old, very good, but sort of very old. And so we decided that it didn't make sense for EBI to be running two different protein family databases. So what we decided to do was switch off the PFAM website, move all of the functions into the InterPro website. We communicated that very carefully to people, but I guess not everyone read that. And so many people think that PFAM is dead. It is not, it's alive and well. So our next plan to sort of increase sustainability is, we have a very old production code base. We're going to essentially throw that away and develop it in Python rather than Perl as part of the InterPro production. And what that means is rather than PFAM releases happening every year or so, if you're lucky, they'll then happen every 2 months. So more protein goodness will come much more often. And Tiffin Paysan-LaFosse will be giving a poster today. It's A115. Go along and find out more about that. There is an opportunity to win an almost unique PFAM t-shirt or two. So do go along and sign up. So the other aspect of sustainability I wanted to mention is environmental sustainability. And this is extremely much on my mind and many of the people that I talk to. So here we're looking at some climate models. IPCC produced these shared socioeconomic pathway models. And I'm looking here at SSP5. This is the red line at the top. And this is called the Taking the Highway model, where the world just keeps on growing and growing, and it's all fossil fuel sort of based development. And this is predicts that by the end of this century, 2100, we will be somewhere probably above 5 degrees above the pre-industrial global average. Okay, and we're at maybe 1.3 degrees now. This is going to be a hell of a world. And we've been tracking that for 30 years. There's no signs of any deviation from that right now. So we basically need to reduce our carbon emissions yesterday, all of us. Science gets no get out of jail free cards. And so we have to do this. So in InterPro, we've been trying really hard to see, can we reduce our carbon footprint? And so the answer is yes. So in 2019, our carbon footprint was about 70 tons of CO2 emitted. That's like 40 transatlantic flights. We're now down to 8 tons of CO2 emitted, estimated for 2023. How have we done that? So I'm going to show a really terrible slide. Apologies, I didn't have time to make this nice. So what we have are various pie charts showing the calculations of InterPro through the years from various sort of scientific advisory board reports. The colors are all different. It's completely non-understandable. So sorry about that. But the point is that different ones of the member database, the different family database, they use different amounts of compute. And at any one point, one of them tends to dominate. And so for each of these pie charts, I put an asterisk on the thing where we've expended some effort to improve the compute or improve the efficiency, reduce the compute times for each of these resources. And we've done that in a variety of ways, which I don't have time to go into. But this is, one of the ways that we've reduced the footprint, also by being much more careful about memory allocations. It turns out, allocating memory is really critical to reducing carbon footprint. So this is all great, and I think everyone else should be doing exactly the same. And the important thing is to just measure your footprint and keep track of that. But we've also been doing some work with Google Research on deep learning for classification, in particular for PFAM. And so Google Research developed this model called PROT-N, and this significantly improves our ability to cover known proteins. So on the y-axis here of this graph is the percentage coverage of proteomes against time. And the blue line is PFAM's coverage, and these orange dots are these deep learning models. And the latest one is an incredible step forwards. And so the next steps, I think, are where things get really exciting, because we can take this technology, and do this against all the member databases of InterPro simultaneously. And this is just a similar model with more labels. Computationally, this will take no more time to run than just running PFAM, and we can do this for all of InterPro. And so, this work, I think, is extremely promising in terms of the sensitivity that we're going to get. The compute efficiencies we still have to evaluate precisely, but I think it should give us an even much bigger reduction in our carbon footprint. So I think this is really exciting. And there are ways of compressing the models that may mean that this can even run in browser. So let's wrap up here. So InterPro is a one-stop shop for protein family and domain analysis. InterPro, I think, can provide long-term sustainability for the data resources. Please go and see Tiffin at Poster A115 for your potential chance to win a PFAM t-shirt. We have to strive to reduce our CO2 emissions. This is really serious, and I think we're all just beginning to realize that. And all of these reductions that we've done is despite the growth in the sequences. So it's not inevitable that the compute has to grow, and these deep learning models, I think, are an exciting opportunity to actually reduce compute overall. I'll acknowledge the team that was involved in this.
That's great. Thank you very much, Alex. Do we have any questions for Alex? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. When you're asking a question, could you give your name for the people online?
Thank you so much for a very nice talk. My name is Ali, and I'm just wondering about the structural information. Is there any plan to incorporate more structural information into the classification of InterPro or PFAM generally? I mean, with AlphaFold on all of these today's news.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ali. So InterPro, we worked with, and PFAM as well, with DeepMind. So on the day that the AlphaFold models were released, we had the AlphaFold models were available on the PFAM and InterPro websites. Are they being used for the classification? Yes, very much so. So the PFAM team, every day we're looking at the AlphaFold models, fixing the mess that we made when we incorrectly defined domains before. We're using it to group together families into clans. We're collaborating with Nick Grisham of the ECOD database. And so, in fact, they're providing us with the sort of the splitting of domains, and then we're building the families from that. And I think it's very likely that we'll work more with the folks at CATH, and you'll hear more from Nicolas very shortly, I think, about that.
That's great. One more quick question.
Dawei Lim from NIH, and Alex, you're currently the only speaker this morning to mention the sustainability of a repository. And I think you see mentioned that like the InterPro as sort of archive or maybe the home for the repository retired. But do you have any other comments on the sustainability challenges?
Yeah, I mean, so I was the editor for the NAR database issue for 5 years, right? And so, many of those databases that we published have gone away completely. In some cases, that's probably no great loss, but in many cases, that data has gone forever. You just can't get hold of it. So I think there are real problems with how do we maintain in the longer term? And I think one way is just making sure that the data is open in a fairly standardized format. And I know over the years, people have, been able to then download a final release and then, keep using that for many years. So we shouldn't expect that every database goes on forever. They have a sort of a life cycle. And, I think at EBI, we've been pretty good at dealing with that life cycle. So we heard already from Ujis, databases come, then they get sunsetted. Usually that data moves into another resource. So yeah, it's a tough problem. And yeah, one that's I think far from solved. But the sort of larger institutions, I think, can help in making an archival version of the final release. I think that's the most important thing.
Great.